The New York Times reported this morning that the Israeli government secretly sought to influence US lawmakers to support the war in Gaza. The blockbuster investigation reported that social media was used by Israel to recruit, quote, digital soldiers. At its peak, there were hundreds of fake accounts with tens of thousands of followers on social media platforms such as Instagram and Facebook. Those fake accounts were posing as concerned American citizens, apparently urging lawmakers to continue funding Israel's military. The New York Times reported that the campaign was funded through Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs to the tune of $2 million.
This is a bombshell.
It's incredible.
Particularly because I would like to note, we have just had months of discourse about whether or not TikTok as an app should be banned. A ban successfully passed through Congress and signed by the President of the United States of America because of the perception that China was somehow negatively influencing the content on that app in ways that were antagonistic to the interests of Americans. And part of the evidence of that was, OMG, look at how popular pro-Palestine content is on that app. It must be that China is brainworming our kids. Now we see an actual proven effort from the state of Israel to have an affirmative propaganda campaign across social media that's actually being funded by this, Israeli-linked organization. And there's proof of it. And not only that, but that they were intentionally targeting American lawmakers to put pressure on them to pursue policy goals that were, again, not geared to the interests of their constituents, but that were geared to the interests of the state of Israel. How is that not infinitely more explosive, infinitely more harmful, infinitely more damning than anything that was alleged in the context of TikTok or any of these other, stories like the one we covered with Ken Klippenstein earlier today?
Yeah, I mean, I rarely am in the business of making predictions, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a real example of selective outrage here, because you're quite right that for a very long time, going back to past elections, there has been outrage, justifiable outrage in many cases, about external or foreign influence on American politics. Here we have a campaign linked to an Israeli government ministry creating fake accounts to put forth the Israeli view of events. But not only that, if I'm reading the Times report correctly, it's sort of about buttressing those lawmakers who are very, very pro-Israel to indicate that their views, I think, are more popular than they actually are. Like, that seems to be the general gist of it. It's quite extraordinary.
It's interesting because the way this is framed is that they're targeting black lawmakers in particular, and the implication seems to be, something racist. And there's like insinuations. It's not really clear. But when you then look at the black lawmakers that have been targeted, it's not people, at least according to the Times reporting, like Jamal Bowman, who's getting this real-life multi-million-dollar AIPAC challenge because he has been affirmatively supportive of humanitarian rights of Palestinians, or Summer Lee, who faced a similar challenge and was successful. It's not people like that. It's Hakeem Jeffries, someone who I believe once described Israel as New York's sixth borough.
And who, sorry to cut across you, but who just signed on to the letter inviting Netanyahu to address Congress as well.
Excellent point. And Raphael Warnock, who has historically been progressive and I think has historically been said supportive things about Palestine, but who has backed off in recent years and has not been outspoken in the least, frankly, I'm sorry, especially when you contrast it to his earlier statements in the context of Palestine after October 7th and the siege that's been going on now for just under 8 months. So to your point, yes, it does seem like creating a safe space, if you will, online for these individuals who are frankly leading the charge already in support of Israel's foreign policy goals.
Yeah, and to the point that we were also discussing previously, the sense that this is going on at the same time as Israel is sort of petitioning the United States for massive amounts of aid, while they're also funneling money to this covert effort to change American political opinion. So it's not being, as it were, open and saying, look, we're the government of Israel, we believe we need these weapons for this reason. It's also taking this really shadowy approach of creating false accounts that then amplify views that you like, presumably can criticize views that you don't like, and also cast opponents of Israel's war in Gaza in very, very negative terms.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, I don't want to overly personalize this, but
I do in a minute, but go ahead.
But one of the a black lawmaker recently, I think, originated a sort of pile-on of me over the weekend, taking a clip that was edited, but I still think I sounded great in it. But an edited clip of a debate that I did about a month ago, and this is again Richie Torres, a U.S. representative from New York, posting this and making an argument that I'm, anti-Semitic and want Israel to be destroyed and all of those other kinds of things. And it was when I experienced the pile-on, frankly, in a way that seems sort of artificial. So when I read in the New York Times piece that ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence-powered chatbot, was used to generate many of the posts, that felt kind of familiar, because if you've ever been the subject of an internet pile-on, you do start to see patterns emerging in the phrases that are used and the responses that don't make sense in the thread, that aren't really directly responsive, sometimes real copy pasta stuff. Sure. And it makes you really wonder how far-reaching this is, and how much of this was, yes, about boosting the people who already support Israel's policies, and how much of it was directed at people who have been openly critical of Israel's policies.
Yeah, and I mean, firstly, what happened to you? I was, I felt, defensive of you in that respect. But also, the point about ChatGPT, not to make light of what's going on here in this really dark campaign, but they pointed out that I think there was something like 100 posts or more, there was exactly the same phrase used, which hilariously was about thanks for this new information or something, which is posted repeatedly. One other point I just wanted to make, Brie, on this issue when I was saying about personalizing it. One of my sort of bugbears in this whole conflict is that I don't think the American media sufficiently reflects the radicalism of the current government of Israel. So this is coming through the Department of Diaspora Affairs. And the minister in that department is a guy by the name of Amichai Chikli. He spoke on Sunday at a conference in New York, saying that we must continue the war and defeat Hamas, suggested that the war could last 2 more years, and said, and you'll enjoy this one, that the war wasn't just against, the Palestinians or the Arabs, but against jihad as well as a radical Marxist progressivism, which we can't escape from. The minister in question also recently spoke at a far-right conference in Spain. So you have that guy in some way directing, or at least being party to, a $2 million disinformation campaign.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
I'm guilty. I'm the radical Marxist target. I am now convinced that I have been targeted by this campaign, and I feel doubly frustrated by the events of the weekend. Yeah, this is an incredible story. We will definitely do any follow-ups if more information on this emerges, but stick around. We've got a lot more Great Rising coming up for you next.